Welcome to the commentary booth where we watch and you guessed it, commentate on the week that was in movies and TV. I'm your host and play by play commentator Jamie Apps, and each week I'm joined by a rotating cast of colour commentators to help you find your next viewing treat. This week I'm joined by a freelance social commentator who lists their favourite movie as American Psycho and favourite TV show as Yellowstone. Welcome back to the show, Blake Robinson.
Doing, Jamie. It's been a
Have you got
while.
two watches on?
No, one's a whoop. Which side? This one. It sort of looks like it, eh?
It looks like he had two watches on. I was like, why has he got like a Garmin watch and an Apple watch?
No. That would just be silly. But people do that. I was actually watching a video the other day. This guy was running. He had like his fitness watch on and an Apple watch on the same wrist. Don't ask why. Seems excessive. But I've seen like super rich, ignorant people like will have a watch on each wrist. Like two Richard Mille watches. But look,
Yeah, I've seen people
each
with
to
like
their own.
multiple watches on, and it's like,
Hey,
just looks weird.
yeah, why not? If you can, I'm surprised it's not a trend that hasn't properly taken off. Like the watch on each wrist. Is it just because it's so ridiculous? Like it's just dumb. Like most people don't even look at the time on one watch. They just use their phone. Like they don't too.
I do that so often when I go somewhere and have my Apple Watch on. I just grab my phone out and look at the clock and then go,
You feel dirty yourself. You
could have
like
just
smack
looked at the
yourself on the back
watch,
of the hand for
idiot.
doing it. Yeah, it's such a bad habit. Hey,
It's because I don't wear my watch at home.
yeah, it's true. I'm the
So I'm
same. I
used to
normally
just,
just as soon as I get home, take the watch off. It's just one less thing on my wrist.
yeah, I'm used to just like grabbing my phone and looking at it. And then when I'm out, I do the same thing. And I'm like, oh, you have your watch on.
I got mates who like don't even have batteries in their watches. Like the time's not set. It's actually an accessory.
Jesus.
But when I'm wearing a watch, I try to make sure I check the time on it, not use my phone.
Yep.
Because I feel like an idiot every time I get my phone out to check the time. I got a watch on.
So how's things been? I think is this your first episode of
First thing,
2024?
bro. It's honestly been the slowest month period of my life. Like it's been 3 weeks of this month. It's felt like 3 months. I don't know what is going on.
Yeah, it has been slow this year.
Like
I feel like
kids
I'm
have
way
been on
ahead of
holidays for
everything for
6
some reason.
months, not 6 weeks.
This week though, we've finally dragged Blake inside the squared circle as we discuss A24's new wrestling film, The Iron Claw, which in itself explores the heartbreaking downfall of the iconic Von Erich wrestling dynasty. Um, Before we dig into the film, Blake,
Mm.
what is your background with wrestling? Did you used to watch it? Have you watched much?
Like I didn't even watch it as a kid, really. My I could probably count on one hand how many wrestlers I know. Like I used to know the Sting as a kid.
Sting's still around.
Goldberg, is he? He had like the paint on his face.
Yeah, he's retiring in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Goldberg, John
Yep.
Cena, Rey Mysterio, like Undertaker. Actually, I probably know a few more than five, but yeah, just
I was
the
gonna say,
OGs.
you're
Just the
gonna surprise
OGs.
yourself with how many
Yeah.
wrestlers you actually know.
Just the OGs.
Stone
The
Cold,
Hardy
Hulk
Brothers.
Hogan.
Are
Yeah, the
they a
Hardys, they're
thing?
still around.
Yeah, see, but like I don't know anything about wrestling. I don't watch it. And I'm gonna say I want it on the public record first and foremost. This is a wrestling movie. If I've ever seen a movie about one particular topic, like you got Talladega Nights is like a NASCAR movie.
Mhm.
The list goes on. Lords of Dogtown, it's about skateboarding,
Mhm.
etc. This is a movie about wrestling. Know that. And I could just imagine wrestling fans like yourself how much they would have fanboyed and enjoyed this movie.
I loved it. There are some inaccuracies, but it's pretty good.
See, that's the next one I was going to say. Because normally, I'm going to use this example, and ironically, I've just chosen this example. Jeremy Allen White, because
Mhm.
he's in this movie and he's in The Bear. Like I've heard from chefs how painfully accurate The Bear is to real life, kitchen life, restaurant life, chef life. Is this comparable to that in the wrestling world? Is this very accurate? And what are your inaccuracies you've just mentioned? I'm intrigued to find out as a fan who didn't pick up on that style of stuff.
So, watching the wrestling scenes, it was pretty well done. Like
Mm.
the the way they've choreographed all of that, really well done. Mainly because One of the producers is Maxwell Jacob Friedman, who is the former AEW World Champion. So
That's
he
well. That was my next question. Are wrestling people involved in this movie?
yes, and then the main like stunt coordinator was Chavo Guerrero, Eddie
I know the name
Guerrero's
Guerrero. Was there
nephew.
an Eddie Guerrero?
Yeah, so Chavo's Eddie's, I believe, nephew.
Yep.
And he's pretty well in the Hollywood scene a lot. Anytime there's sort of some sort of wrestling or fight choreography stuff, he
Mm,
kind of gets pulled in. So he was
mm.
in there doing all of showing Zach, Jeremy, and Harris how to sort of do these moves, do these matches and stuff. There's a bunch of wrestlers in side roles as well.
They looked the part
So like, yeah, the wrestling parts are good. Outside the ring is where the inaccuracies start to come.
on the storyline.
Yeah, in the storyline, and also there's a moment where we see the wrestlers in the back before they go out for their match, discussing their match
Mm.
and like what they're going to do and all of that sort of stuff.
See, I had
Modern
no
day
idea how that stuff works.
in modern day wrestling, that's very accurate, very true.
Yep.
Back in the time that this movie is set, that wouldn't have happened.
Mm.
The
There
good
you go.
guys and the bad guys always had separate locker rooms and they were
Mm.
not to be seen together at any time. So they would go into the ring and they would call everything in the ring on the fly. Like
Okay.
that's when you see them sort of they go for a headlock and they get like really close to, like to the other guy's head
Mm.
and they'll like say, "Oh, we're going to do this sequence of moves," and then they'll
Really?
just do it. Whereas in modern wrestling, they
It
will
is
run
just
through the whole
completely
match
scripted. So
beforehand.
it's completely scripted now. Like whereas then they sort of were on the
There are
fly.
s- there are still moments where people will go and they'll just like, let's just call it all in the ring,
Yeah.
or
Right.
on the fly if something happens that wasn't supposed to happen. All right, let's do this now and
Yeah.
play off that. Like if someone
Mm.
gets hurt or something, they'll play off it and go from there.
Yeah. Well, of course, that would have. You have to just take it as it comes, and not everything goes to plan. So you have to make
Yeah.
something up as you go.
Or if what they're doing isn't getting the reactions that they wanted, then they can pivot and
Yeah.
like improvise.
While we're on this topic, it's jumping ahead a bit, but I just want to touch on it when you mentioned the locker room and not hanging out. Was it the world title fight where he fought? Apologies, forgot which character fought Ric Flair, and he comes into the locker room afterwards. I'm like, surely that is not happening.
In those days it potentially wouldn't have, but I guess if they know there's no like general public in the building at that point,
Mm,
like if they've all left, then it would be fine. But
yeah,
it's any time where they think that they may get seen with
hanging out. Then it
the
just takes away. Yeah,
yeah, it takes away the whole aura of, oh, that guy really hates that guy.
it's like if you're watching. I don't know. Let me think of an example. Like, can't
It's like when
remember.
you're watching like Conor
I was going to use
McGregor
like a
and
porn
he's like,
example
oh Jesus, of course you will.
when like the storyline's busted, like the stepson storyline, and they find out off camera that they're not actually related, then it just ruins everything you just watched. Like it ruins your fantasy. Like, oh, they're not actually related, so
Yeah.
that's shit.
I was
Anyway,
thinking more like, yeah, when like Conor McGregor's like shit talking someone, if you then went and saw them like eating dinner together, you'd be like, what the fuck?
yeah, oi, that's like, oi, just on the weekend, the UFC, Sean Strickland and Dricus Duplessis, like they've just hated each other for months, weeks. All the promo leading up to it, they like literally just want to kill each other, like actually kill each other. Then you
Mhm.
see them like hugging it out and shit after the fight. Like, what the fuck? They've like let us on all week. Reckon they want to kill each other. Now they're hugging and like showing respect for each other. They didn't show any respect for months. Now they're
Yeah.
hugging it out. It's the exact
Yeah.
same thing, eh?
It just takes away that
Like, oh, you
aura.
got
You're
the
like, no,
pay per
that's
views. Everyone watched. We're good. We got our numbers. We got our money. Let's hug it
yeah.
out.
So yeah, like if you had no experience, like you had very limited experience with wrestling, you obviously would have had no idea about the Von Erichs
Never
and
heard the name
the
Von Erich in
tail.
my life. I only found out. Oh, I didn't even know anything. I know nothing about this. So I just knew it was pretty fucked up and a lot of bad shit happened to the family. I didn't know who died, what died, if people got injured, if other stuff happened. I knew nothing. I didn't know there was a curse. And I'm actually glad I didn't know anything because I feel See, this is a tough one. As a wrestling fan like you and someone who you still would have been able to enjoy the film, you could have even been like looking forward to it even more, knowing what happened. Whereas someone like me, who was interested in the film, just a casual sort of interester, I think if me knowing what happened could have taken away some of the sting from the movie. Because I
Oh yeah,
really enjoyed this for the fact that didn't know what was going to happen next. I had no idea what was going to happen to what people, and that was like edge of my seat, sort of heart racing stuff. I'm like, oh, what's going to happen next? Where I assume you knew what was going to happen next, but you didn't really care about that because you were so interested in other aspects of the film. Where I was relying on the thrill of the film to be interested in it. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah. I can imagine it hit a lot, like hit a lot harder and stung a lot more when some of these people got injured or ultimately pass away. But for me, it
Mm.
was like I knew it was all coming. I just wanted to see
See it happen.
how it happened, what it like did to the remaining characters, and yeah, it was for me.
Was
It was
it
super heavy.
Was it depicted to your liking, to your standard? Did they do a good job of doing it?
Yeah, I loved this. I thought it was brilliantly done. I think this is by far and away Zac Efron's greatest acting performance to date.
Oh, I got a bone to pick. This is a big bone to pick. Yes, Efron did a great job, and this is nothing of his part. The makeup was absolutely terrible. Why was he? He just had. Is it? I don't know. Did his character look like something like that? Like
That's
he's
that's a very
just like
accurate
big
Kevin Von
box
Erich.
face, jaw. I need to get him up. What's his name? Sorry, Kevin. Was
Kevin
he
Von
Kevin?
Erich.
I need to see this because it was so, and he's like impressively 0% body fat
Oh,
physique, so distracting. He was
he was
jacked.
jacked. He was
He
massive.
was so jacked, like it was distracting. He was
Yeah.
distractingly jacked.
Yep. Yeah, the
Kevin
Von Erichs
Von.
were massive dudes.
Oh, he's old there, so he's all wrinkly and shit.
Yeah.
Look, the
Search
hair's accurate.
yeah, 80s Kevin Von Erich had that haircut, which is
He
funny.
had the haircut, but God, he's painfully big jaw and box head. I don't know. Now that I'm looking at this, yeah, geez, they all look the same. Those boys.
Oh, yeah.
But it was distracting. I thought it come off as comical to me. He looked that ridiculous, so that took a bit of a sting away for me. He come off as comical, but he's great. He
Yeah,
did great. He did
I
great,
will say, though, that he looked much more accurate than the Ric Flair character.
bro. So this is why I didn't want to mention Ric Flair so early because I've got a huge bone to pick. Yeah, that was bad. I thought that was pretty cringe as well, and also a bit pushed. Like, did that need to happen? And I was thinking the whole time, has this been approved by Ric Flair? Like, what would he think of this depiction?
I don't know, but
Um,
it wasn't good. I've
I was,
seen
I thought I was
multiple
expecting.
people do better Ric Flair impressions.
Yeah, it was shocking.
Like, people off the
Woo!
people off the street do better Ric Flair impressions of Ric
Cars,
Flair
yeah, I
than this
know.
guy.
And it felt like that sort of role too, where that should have been like a pretty well-known like actor doing that. You know what the example I thought of in Joker, the talk show host, it's Robert De Niro, right? In the
Uh, yes.
and that was like a pretty big shock. Like that's a huge cameo, like and no one's really expecting that. I reckon that something like that should have been done here.
Mhm.
Like there's random moves, maybe in
Because
like
like, everyone I feel like nearly every person has at least heard of Ric Flair.
yeah, everyone knows
So,
who
like,
Ric Flair is. I reckon, bro, there'd
when
be
he
half
pops up, it could have been a massive start, like, chuck a
like
Leonardo DiCaprio in that, and that's a massive, like,
someone like a Ryan
"Oh,
Gosling
sh"
even.
yeah, and it's like, "Oh, whoa, what? He's in this?"
That's what I mean. Like when he came on, that like it was like that sort of grainy TV footage, and like the fact that they put it behind that grainy old footage, like was a perfect opportunity to sort of hide a famous actor and sort of like blend them into
Mhm.
that role. Yeah, well, as soon as he came on, I was like studying this character. I'm like, is this a well? I was because I was expecting. I was like, is this a well-known actor? Like, this is a perfect opportunity to throw like a cameo in there. I had no idea who it is. Are you looking it up now?
Yep, it is Aaron Dean Eisenberg.
I don't know who you are, bruh. where you mentioned like most people know who Ric Flair is, I reckon like 60% or 50% of people know who Ric Flair is wouldn't have like even realize was a wrestler. They probably just think he's just like a famous character, like just a person
Mhm.
famous for being him.
Yeah, this guy
And
hasn't
like,
really
could
been
that? And
around.
like, I've seen Ric Flair recently. He still looks like Ric Flair. Like,
Oh,
Ric
yeah.
Flair looks like Ric Flair. Like, I don't think he's ever going to change. Same as Hulk Hogan. Like, Hulk Hogan looks like Hulk Hogan still.
Yep.
Could you have put Ric Flair to play Ric Flair? I know it was 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
No, not going to work.
I've
No, that's fair.
yeah, no.
Yeah, but they're two big bones I got to pick. So the Zac Efron's makeup was comical and took a bit of a sting out of it, and that Ric Flair character was way too pushed and forced, and they made a point out of the whole thing. They
Yeah.
didn't need Ric. They didn't need Ric Flair. It's like they needed Ric Flair to save the movie, but they didn't even need him at all.
I think
Was
just
the
because it
Ric
was like
Flair's
an iconic match
Yeah,
that
that's what I
like
was about to say. Was the
changed
timeline of that?
everything.
Was all the history of Ric Flair being involved accurate? Like, is that justified?
Yes.
So he had a world title fight with Von Erich.
Yep. And like
Was it which Von Erich was it again?
Kerry,
There's Kevin, which is Zach. Kerry was Jeremy
Jeremy,
Allen White.
and then Harris Dickinson played David.
The tall lad.
Yep.
He was mad. He was probably my favorite. I like him. Big Jeremy Allen White fan, as everyone knows. He came off as a bit of a piece of shit in this, hey, like his character.
Yeah, I think he was just like, and he came off as angry, which understandable. Like he was
Did he really
there.
lose his foot? Did that
Yes.
happen? That's
Yes.
hectic, hey. As soon as he jumped on that bike, I knew he was going to crash. But my guess was he was going to die.
Nope.
Did you
So
know?
yeah.
So you knew? Did you? How much did you know this story? Did you know everything? Like, or how everyone died and everything? Or did you
Uh,
need refreshing when you watched this to remind you?
I
Or did you
knew
some of the
I knew
deaths?
that Kerry had died of suicide.
Is that accurate? He shot himself in the chest. Like you've got to be
Uh,
accurate in something like this. You can't make shit up or
yeah.
change the story, eh?
And I knew David had died in Japan, but
Yeah.
I didn't know much about Mike. But they also, on that front, they left out a brother as well due to time constraints.
Bullshit. Is there another
Yeah,
one?
so
Is that Jack, the young little one who died when he was 5?
no,
There's
another
another
one
one.
on top of Jack.
And that he didn't even get a mention in the movie, eh?
No, so there's in the Von Erich family there were 1,
There
2,
was
3,
4 in
4,
the movie. There was 4 alive in
5.
the movie, then 5 there's a little
So
Jack.
there was 5 deaths. So Jack
And Kevin
Adkinson,
made it through.
yes.
Yeah.
So Jack Adkinson was the first to die in 1959. He died at the age of 7
He
after
was
he
5
was,
in the movie, wasn't he?
I think so, yeah. So he was
What's going on there?
electrocuted and then fell face first into a puddle and drowned.
Fuck.
Then
That's
David died
bad
of
luck.
enteritis in 1984, aged 25 in Tokyo.
Yeah. He
There's
was there for the
rumors that,
world title fight, yeah?
yeah, he was like touring with the NWA.
Oh,
The rumors are that
NWA.
it was, yeah, the National Wrestling Alliance.
Yeah, that's
They
the
were like
Alliance.
a governing body.
Yeah.
So yeah, the rumor is that he died of a
NWA.
drug overdose, but they got rid of all the drugs before the police arrived. So then it was
The
put
old
into,
Marilyn Monroe crime scene cleanup.
yep.
One of
But
them ones.
that's never ever been confirmed. Ric Flair put it in a book, and everyone's just been like, "Yeah, it's Ric Flair. You can't really trust Ric Flair."
A known Mayo user.
And then Mike died in 1987 when he committed suicide via overdosing on pain pills. He was only 23 years old.
He wasn't in the movie.
Yeah, he was. He was the youngest of the 4. The one that liked
Oh,
playing the guitar. The one that didn't
yeah, he
really wanna
walked out
wrestle,
into
he
the
wanted
field. Yeah, I was wondering how he killed himself. They didn't really touch on that, hey?
yeah, he took all his pain medication and
Because then, yeah, because he walked out with his sleeping bag or some shit into the paddock, hey? But
Mhm,
then they sort of, when they found him, that was it. They didn't really show much of it.
mhm.
Yep.
And then Chris, who was excluded from the movie, died in 1991 from suicide. He was only 21. And then Kerry committed suicide via gunshot, aged 32. Um,
That's hectic, hey?
and one of the mistakes was he was found by Fritz, not Kerry, not Kevin.
Yeah, right.
So they twisted it a bit. And then ultimately, Fritz died in 1997 from brain and lung cancer, aged 68.
Fritz is the dad.
Yep. So the only one from that generation left is
He's
Kevin.
still alive, eh?
Yep. He was just
How
on
good was that family?
AEW about 3 weeks ago.
I'm gonna get him. Oh no, I just seen a photo of him. That's sick. Have you heard anything? Oh, quickly while we're on that, how good was that family photo at the end of the movie?
With the whole family in Hawaii.
Yeah, like the real life. That was sick.
Yep.
Um,
So yeah, like
how involved do you
now,
reckon he was in this movie? He's obviously signed off on it.
yeah, he said he was
8.
happy with it.
Fuck,
Um,
imagine. That's so much trauma, eh? What a
oh yeah.
life. Um,
And then yeah, so his sons, Kevin's sons, Ross and Marshall, now wrestle. They were just on AEW and Ring of Honor recently.
fuck,
They're
hectic.
really good. I would
That's
like to
mad.
see them wrestle more. And then Kerry's daughters are still alive as well. Holly
Mhm.
Atkinson and Lacey Von Erich, who
That's a
wrestled
sick
for a little
name.
while in TNA.
It's almost a name that sounds familiar. Um, whose kids are they?
Kerry's, but the movie doesn't touch on
They
them at
weren't in
all.
the movie, eh?
No.
See,
So
for,
there are some things that they left out purely for
for,
like if they'd put Chris in the movie,
mm.
it would have made it even more like heavy. Like 5 people in this family die. Holy
I
shit!
from everything I'd read and whatnot of people being like sad and crying and saying how fucked it was, I handled them all very well, all the bad scenes very well. And I actually didn't cry man tears until the very end when
The
the Zac
sons.
Efron character of Kevin was watching his sons play football and they said like will be your brother's dad.
Mhm.
And I was like, bro, can you not right now? I'm so glad that was right at the end.
Yeah,
Then
there was 2 scenes in the movie that really hit
when
me.
he's watching him play footy, I'm like, oh man, this has got me. And oh my god, can we I think I called the last scene in Saltburn where Barry Keoghan is like dancing around the house to Murder on the Dance Floor. I called that like the best movie scene of like 2023, maybe. We have a new clubhouse leader, an early clubhouse leader for the best movie scene of 2024 here, and that is the brothers meeting up in the
The
afterlife.
afterlife scene, that is
What
yeah,
a scene, bro! Whose idea was that? That was genius. Then
yeah.
little Jack, and he's like, "I believe you're my older brother," or something.
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh, this is so sick,
Yeah,
so sick."
it was that afterlife scene and then the scene with Ross and Marshall where I was like, "Holy hell."
Yeah, bruh, that's mad. Both those scenes, I was like, I would last the whole movie, the funerals, the deaths, but yeah, it was those two scenes at the end that got the man tears going on their merry way. Great. I'm glad we both agreed on that.
What else did I have written down? So yeah, some of the, like, wrestler cameos that happened throughout the movie. MJF is in there as Lance Von Erich, who isn't really a true Von Erich. He was, like, just a wrestler that they got paired with one of the brothers at one point. Who else? Uh, Chavo Guerrero is in there as the Sheik,
Mm-hmm.
and Ryan Nemeth is in there as Gino Hernandez as well. So there's a couple of wrestler cameos in there for people with a keen eye.
Yeah, right.
And what did you think of, given that you didn't sort of know much
Mm.
about them, the early parts of the movie where it's establishing how big a like superstars the Von Erichs were in those early years of like Texas wrestling
Signing
was the Von
autographs and
Erichs.
shit. Yeah, I know it's hard to get your head around. Like, I know things back in those days were a lot bigger, like little things like that, because I didn't have anything else really. And like, I don't know, it's they sort of shot to stardom very quickly. Hey,
Mhm.
were these like pay per views? Like the wrestling jurisdictions in each state were their own like company, and they had to sell pay per views or something. Because there was like a talk of an ESPN deal at one stage, but was that just for the Texas jurisdiction that was contracting to ESPN to broadcast? Like, is that when they took off in stardom?
Yeah, so this is like pre WWE taking over as like a national promotion. This is
Right.
back in the days when it was like a territory system where you would have the Texas Wrestling Federation, and they'd have just like they'd have a circuit within Texas that they would run, and they'd do that over and over, and then they would get like a TV deal and put their shows up on there, and then you would have
Mm.
another federation that's like you'd have one in Florida, then you'd have one in like the Northeast, and then one in the Midwest and stuff like that. And what you would do is you'd have someone like Ric Flair, who was the NWA World Champion, which was like it was a governing body where it had like a board, and the board would be like representatives from each of the territories, and they would all sort of vote on, okay, this guy's coming up, let's send him to go and wrestle. Like, let's send
Yeah.
Ric Flair to go and wrestle him and do that sort of stuff. And that's obviously how David ends up winning the title. Like, they all agree that, okay, this is the guy we're going to put the title on.
Kevin really didn't want his brothers succeeding. Hey, he was a bit selfish, wasn't he? He wanted it all for him. He wanted all the smoke.
Well, that's, yeah, that comes back to like Fritz. Like,
Mm.
from little kids, these boys were in like competition to be the favorite, and like they were always ranked by their dad. And he was like, oh, the ranking doesn't always change. And then like Kevin like gets that real big push of like you're the next one up, and then it gets to the time where the NWA is going to come to Texas and they skip him. It's like I can understand why he was kind of like a bit ticked off.
Yeah, for sure. Well, could have been fate in the end, really.
Yeah, ended up probably working in his favor.
Probably saved his life, to be honest with you. We mentioned stardom, how big Texas wrestling was, and touching back on inaccuracies. Did Kevin meet his partner in that manner out the front, getting an autograph?
I'm not 100% sure, but it wouldn't put it.
So, yeah,
I
it
wouldn't
wouldn't
be shocked.
surprise. And back in those days, that's probably how people met each other, to be honest with you.
Mhm. I did love that in that whole like uh, romance storyline thing, Kevin manages to keep what they call kayfabe, and like the the lines of the business is real. He didn't like let her in on the jig was up, that it's all predetermined. He was kind of like they're out on the date and she says something about it being fake, and he goes, no, 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 wrestling isn't fake.
Yeah.
It's like
There's nothing fake about it. It's real, but I
but yeah,
knew what she was saying. She just
yeah,
didn't word it right.
yeah. And he was just like, no, 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 wrestling is real.
It's like it's happening right there. We are wrestling, but yeah, I knew what she was getting at. Has there been reactions in your circles, your little world of wrestling, from wrestlers? How have they taken this movie? What's the buzz?
Pretty much everyone is loving it. The Ric Flair thing is the one that's like the big
Is
sticking
that
point
the
where everyone's
chitter
just like,
chatter?
oh, yeah. Everyone's like, what the why?
Well, I
They
hated
could
it,
have
so
picked
I
up any wrestler off the street and be like, can you just come in and do a Ric Flair impression for us? Like, hey, yeah, sweet.
Can you imagine how many like cosplay dudes like would nail that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like
Anyone.
that's just what they do. Like
You could have paid some random dude $50 and he'd have done a better job than
the
Aaron
more I
Eisenberg.
think about it, oh my god! Oh, I was gonna say Ryan Gosling, but Owen Wilson, bro. Now that's one that would have been good. That would have been sick.
Yeah, my big question would be, can Owen Wilson pull off like a Carolina accent and not just be Owen Wilson accent?
Wow. 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 Wow.
Uh,
Yeah.
and yet,
Little
we were
bit
talking
much.
about like getting that first like bite from the Von Erich curse. Like, yeah, he was on the verge of going to the Olympics, and then the whole USSR Cold War thing really kicks off, and the US
Mm.
pull out of the Olympics. That would have been so like devastating. Like, about to go to the Olympics, have a good chance at medaling here, and
Yeah,
then
that
the
was
Von Erich curse
heartbreaking, hey?
bites him.
I stopped to like reflect on history for a second then and how like crazy those times would have been. Like these athletes in any sport would have trained so hard.
Especially in the
And
US
then
where
you just
they like send heaps of athletes
yeah, they
for nearly
still
every
do.
sport.
I can just imagine how shattering like same thing, like families just relying put everything they've built their whole life into like their one kid or whatever to go to this Olympics, then they just pull it.
Mhm.
It would have destroyed families for generations still. Like
Yeah, especially because it's not like a regular sport where it's like, "Oh, the world championships, we'll just go next year."
yeah,
Like,
every
it's the
4 years, like
Olympics,
you've
like
done. That's like not many people get a second shot at an Olympic cycle because it's every
yeah,
4 years.
yeah, that's just
So
rough.
if you don't go, then that's it. You may as well just start focusing on something else because you're not going to be able to do it again in 4 years.
But then, like, because he is so the whole family is so, like, hell-bent on this idea of the Von Erich curse, it kinda ends up becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy where they're always just, like, waiting for the next bad thing to happen, and in doing so, kind of bring about the next bad thing on themselves.
Yeah.
Like,
So that
it
was like that's just another part of the curse, wasn't it? The Olympic saga.
mhm. But, like, particularly when they sort of he comes back instead of just, like, living a clean life, continuing to, like, just wrestle hard, they go out partying and then, like, the movie
Mm.
doesn't shy away from showing them, like, partying, drink driving, drugs, steroid use.
Yeah, full jabbing.
Like, it was no no holds barred on that sort of stuff.
Yeah, Zac Efron ain't got 1% body fat from sinking beers. I'll tell you that much. That's inaccurate.
Yeah. So, yeah, like, it was just really well done overall from my
Yeah.
perspective. The
Yeah,
whole,
see,
like,
I wouldn't
idea
know
of
if it
sort
was
of
well done, but it looked legit to me, like on face value.
the whole idea of sort of the brotherhood aspect and then, like,
Yeah, they loved
that
each other rails. That was pretty cool.
yeah, like, you see Kevin sort of take on the sort of mentoring and nurturing role, like, he's trying to protect his brothers from
Mm.
his dad's, like, crazy, incessant, like, hard pressure that he's putting on everyone all the
But you
time, and
see
he's like,
that on
"You need
that
to tell dad
date.
to lay off a bit."
Yeah, like he did that. He told his mum. Then when he was on the date, what was his partner's name? His partner to
Pam?
be Pam. Pam. She's like getting at. She's just throwing herself at him, and he's just like, "No, I just really like to protect my rose, and I'm just like hanging out with my rose, like working with my rose." Like he's just not biting at what she's giving him. He's like,
Mhm.
"No, all I care about is my brothers. Like that's really my life. I just like living with them, like playing with them, working with them."
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it's wrestling and looking after each other, that was their whole life,
Yeah, that's mad. It was sick. It was good relationships. Then
and then, yeah.
goddamn Jeremy Allen White belts him
Mhm.
in the ring. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? That's not wrestling. That's real. Wrestling's fake. What are you doing,
He
man?
just straight up punched your brother in the face.
Shit, bro. That's real. But
But, yeah,
did
like
well to get back on his feet, hey, with his foot. Get
yeah,
back on his foot.
that whole thing, like,
That's mad, eh?
wrestling wrestling with the prosthetic foot,
Did he
he
actually do that?
yeah, he did that for a while without
That's
anybody knowing,
hectic.
and then that's what sort of led him down the
Oh
whole
yeah, because
path
they sort
of
of getting
the
sacked, hey, getting laid off, not getting a contract. Did they must have found out that he wasn't? He was how did no one know he was like missing his foot? Like surely they were big enough stars by then that they know he had an accident and it would have got out from the hospitals, like would have leaked. So no one
nope.
knew.
So, yeah, people
Fucking
didn't,
sick.
like, know that he didn't I don't know if, like, the wrestling backstage, they might have known, but, like, general public didn't know that he was missing his foot. But it was
Yes. Social media is a different beast, hey. Like you
yeah.
could probably keep secrets back then.
the reason he ended up getting laid off was because he was wrestling with that prosthetic foot, which obviously was like really painful, really awkward. So then he became like addicted to the pain pills, and then
Yeah,
that became a massive issue for him. And then
yeah.
that's why he ended up being laid off.
Ah, true.
So yeah, that was pretty heavy, but very well done.
Yeah,
Um, and then in terms of like the performance of the film, the budget was $15.9 million.
that's nothing.
Yeah, classic A24 doing it on a
Somehow
on a
can
good
make
budget.
money last and go stretch a bit further.
Um, but and the US box office to date is currently at $32.3 million, but it has only just come out here in Australia, so they're going to make some good money here in Australia. I believe it hasn't released in the UK yet either, so there's another
Huge.
whole like wave of income for it.
Japan, wrestling's big in Japan, isn't it?
Mhm. Especially with like David being
Yeah,
a
100%.
pretty big star in Japan as well. So
Yeah, they love it.
there's there's like infinite potential here. Um, Other wrestling movies. Have you seen any other wrestling movies, or is this like your first foray into that?
Um, I consider the Peanut Butter Falcon a wrestling movie with
Oh,
Shia
100%
LaBeouf.
a wrestling movie.
Yep, that's a
That's a good
wrestling
one too.
movie.
That's a real good one.
Oh, I've seen The Wrestler, bruh. That is a movie.
That's a good one.
That's
That's a
probably the
real good
best wrestling movie of all time, is it not?
Uh, I
Rattle off
would
some
put
wrestling movies that I might
I
know.
think I think I would put the Iron Claw above the wrestler, but it's like
I want to go back
neck
and
and
watch
neck.
The Wrestler
Like
now because
either day I
that's
could
an
toss a
emo.
coin and be happy.
That is a sad movie. That is
Yeah.
sadder than the Iron Claw, I thought.
Yeah, I think that one's sadder because you can like see the downfall like just gradually building, whereas this one is kind of like sudden shocks.
Rattle off some wrestling movies that I may be forgetting.
So you've kind of pretty much seen the major ones. The other one is Fighting with My Family.
No.
That's like it's a story about one of the female wrestlers and how she ended up going from wrestling in England to wrestling in the WWE.
Right.
It's a good one. Uh, Let me Google wrestling movies and see what we come up
There'll
with.
be some we're just obvious ones we're getting.
Uh, yeah, the wrestler Nacho Libre.
Oh, I haven't seen it, but I know it. Who's in that again? It's
Um,
it's one of them funny guys.
yeah, what's his name? Jack Black.
Jack Black, of course. The funniest guy.
Yep. Beyond the Mat is another wrestling. I
Oh,
think it's
I've
a
heard of that.
documentary
Is that a
though.
documentary? Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. What else have we got? Oh, there's a movie called Pro Wrestlers versus Zombies.
That sounds so bad.
It's not the greatest. Uh, you Cannot Kill David Arquette. That's a fantastic documentary. If you want to check out a documentary,
That's another one I've heard of.
yeah, and it's on. I believe it's still on Stan. Last time I saw it, it was
David
on Stan.
Arquette. Yeah, that looks sick, eh? Yeah, it's on Stan.
Yeah,
Heck, dude, that looks nuts.
yeah. If you want to dive into some crazy wrestling documentaries, that's a good one.
This looks X. He looks. I don't know who David Arquette is, but he looks completely unhinged.
Mhm.
Is that why you
Yeah,
cannot kill him?
kind
Because
of.
he'll probably kill you. Yeah, that's mad.
Yeah, Fighting with My
Courtney
Family is
Cox.
another pretty good one. Cassandra on Amazon is a very good movie about gay wrestlers in Mexico. Pretty crazy stuff.
That's niche.
Yeah, 350 Days is a documentary about like just wrestling and like the crazy schedules they have.
Mm-hmm.
Ready to Rumble. That's another good one. That's a actual David Arquette wrestling movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm cannot. What's that other one? You cannot kill David Arquette.
Yep.
He looks like he's got a bit of J.J. Allen about him.
And then there is one on YouTube that's like an independent movie, but I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. A second. It's in my watch laters.
For such something that's so popular and such a huge part of pop culture and sport, whatnot, there's not many wrestling movies out, is there? We've just realised.
Yeah, not many great ones. Heel Kick is another really good one on
Right.
YouTube. It's like a pseudo documentary, so sort of like kind of like The Office, but wrestling.
Right.
That's a fun one.
Interesting.
But
Trying to
like,
picture that.
yeah, watching the Iron Claw really made me want to see a Eddie Guerrero A24 drama depiction of his life.
Maybe we'll get a Logan Paul one day.
Jesus
Hey,
Christ.
how's Logan Paul go? Is he like respected with all the wrestling fans? Like, is he a legit wrestler these days? I know he's a big deal.
Yeah, he's
Do
really
the
good.
fan, he comes
He's
off as
like
someone like all the fans would hate at like the live shows and shit. Or
they
is he?
hated
Is he? But
they hated him until he had a match, and then they went, "Oh shit, he's actually really good."
he's very good. Like, because I watch like his YouTube videos and whatnot, and he looks like he knows what he's doing. Well,
Yeah.
he wrestled in like college and high school and shit, so
Oh yeah, yeah. Like
he's good. But yeah,
his few matches in the WWE have been great. I think he's still the
very profitable asset for them with
oh yeah.
merchandising and promotion, like license to print money. I know if
I'm pretty sure he's still the US champion, actually.
fuck, it's hectic. He's got a bit of Zac Efron in the Iron Claw chisel about him too. That kid, I know that. He's got a rig on him, Logan Paul.
I think the next one they should probably like look to do like this sort of biopic type thing is Eddie Guerrero, just because he's got such a crazy story and again a crazy tragic ending as well.
Doesn't the Undertaker didn't he go through shit as well? Is that why his character's the Undertaker? Like, because it seems dark and all that?
No, not really. He was just like a big dude, and then Vince like gave him this other new character. And ended up working really well. He's had like
So it was like a Vince thing.
divorces and stuff, but nothing like crazy.
Yeah, I
Like,
thought he had like a pretty dark past. That's why he was sort of that character. I was like
nah,
a bit more
like
to
Eddie
it.
Guerrero has like he grew up in a wrestling family, so he's got the same sort of thing as Kevin, where like he was kind of born into this. Pretty much everyone in his family wrestles. He became like a big like he traveled all around the world. He wrestled in Mexico, wrestled in Japan, eventually came to America, was in WCW, went to WWE, got sacked, had like crazy drug and alcohol addiction.
Who was that old mate that came back? Was it like Randy Orton or some shit recently?
Yep.
Is that him? Is that who I'm
And
thinking of?
Steampunk. And then yeah, like
Um,
Eddie kicks the addiction, comes back to wrestling, is doing phenomenal stuff, and then just has a sudden heart attack and dies.
is Eddie Guerrero dead?
Mhm.
I did
He's
not
been
know
dead for a
that. When
while.
did he die? It's bullshit. When?
Um, he died in 2005.
The year of the West Tigers premiership. There was another wrestling question I had. Vince McMahon, who's married his daughter, and he's a new CEO or some shit, isn't he?
Triple H.
Triple H, is it?
Yep.
Yeah, right. That's pretty cool, eh?
Yeah. He's got another like pretty crazy story as well, but
I'm sure
no
they all
sort
do.
of tragic passings. I did hear a lot of people on Twitter like, "Oh, they should do Chris Benoit one." I was like, maybe not.
I know who that lad is. Who is he? What's he do?
So he was a wrestler. He was like adored by wrestlers because of his in-ring work. He was always just like really technical, just a really good in-ring technician. Ultimately had a bunch of CTE and murdered his wife and young child.
Fuck, CT would do that to you. Hey, look at Aaron Hernandez out there being
So
a
like,
thug.
like that's an
I've heard
insane
about
like
that story. What was his name again?
Chris Benoit.
I'm googling this lad.
So
He's come up in conversation already. What's his
yeah,
name? Chris Ben
B N
Benoit. Oh, Ben
O
Wheat. Ben Wheat. Yeah,
Benoit.
this lad.
So like yeah, it's a
What?
tragic like crazy tale, but I also probably don't want to highlight a guy that killed his wife and like very young child.
Yeah, it's a bit on the nose, eh?
Whereas at least like Eddie, it's just tragic because like he was fine, and then all of a sudden he was gone, and everyone's
Why
just like,
did
"What
this
the f-"
guy was? Why was this guy back in the cycle recently? His Chris Benoit. Why have I heard about him recently? Did something happen? Here we go. Look, there's
I
a Reddit thread from a month ago. Why are people acknowledging Chris Benoit all of a sudden? This is me.
probably because like people are like, oh, let's do a Chris Benoit A24 movie, and everyone's like, maybe not so much. Pump the brakes on that.
Oh my god. Yeah, I know. Everyone seems to hate him.
Yeah, well, he murdered his wife and like I think like 5 or 6 year old kid.
I'm not backing him up here, but thanks to CTE. So hate the game, not the player. That's how I'm seeing this.
And yeah, the whole reason, the whole way they found out that that all happened too was it was supposed to be on a pay-per-view and didn't show up, and
What's
everyone's
Kurt
like,
Angle
"That's
got to do with Chris Benoit?
not too much apart from also having a lot of CTE, broken neck,
He's in like 3 TikToks here. Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle.
uh, a lot of like
Anyway,
drug issues." Like Kurt would be another crazy story because like he went to the Olympics, found out he had a broken neck just before he went to the Olympics, still won the gold medal with a broken neck, then transitioned into professional wrestling, became one of the like greatest professional wrestlers of all time. Then had a whole bunch of drug issues, got sacked, went TNA, did fantastic work in TNA, and then sort of just drifted away.
I can imagine like so many professional wrestlers like on the big time would be like just rock stars and just ripping through cocaine all the time. Like probably heaps back in the 70s and 80s, but I wouldn't be surprised what's going on now, eh?
Yeah,
It just
in the
seems like that in
nineties,
history. It would have been
in the
drugs would have been
nineties, it was
hectic,
really
bro.
bad. Yeah, in the nineties, it was really bad,
It just seems
and
like that sort of environment.
it went from yeah alcohol and cocaine to then it was the painkillers and the sleeping tablets that became the big
Yeah,
issue. And that's kind of
100%.
what ultimately led to Eddie's downfall.
Because those guys would have trained like maniacs, eh? Like still would.
Not yeah,
Like
and not just like the
just to give you
training too, like
stay in shape. Oh, the schedules and shit, rehearsals,
yeah, the
busy
schedules, like
lifestyle, eh?
and like the rings, it's painful shit.
Yeah,
Like,
I'd love to
like,
play in like a proper ring, just bounce around in it and spring myself from the ropes. Boom, boom,
yeah, like
chase.
running the ropes, but even that like hurts like unless until you sort of build up the callus and stuff on your armpits
Yeah,
and back
well,
before you get
Kevin,
crazy
when
bruises.
he who was it? Who was that fat guy that was world champion, like back to back world champion that Kevin had?
Harley race.
Harley Race, he threw him outside on the floor and like he legit hurt his back. Hey,
Hmm.
that seemed a bit hectic.
Yeah, like I've like if you see a ring like deconstructed, it doesn't look pleasant to like be getting slammed down on stuff. Like it's just straight. Like there's a metal frame, and then there's pine boards sat on top of that, and then there's like like the gym mats.
Yeah.
There's like a thin layer of like foam that's like gym mat foam, and then a canvas. So you're basically
Nice.
just slamming down on pine boards that are like this thick.
Yeah, it'd be fucking hard.
And then yeah, like so
Yeah,
that's
so
why
much can go
you see a
wrong.
lot of wrestlers that have like hip and back and neck issues and knees. Knees are really bad as well.
Mm.
So
Look, it's
wrestling,
better off them
wrestling's
than me.
wrestling's full on.
Are they on, I was going to ask this question before, but obviously they're on sick coin now. But like those, uh, the Von Erichs, what sort of money were they making back then? Would have been piss, but
Yeah, not much.
because they never really balled out. Hey, like
The main
I keep forgetting his name. Kerry, is that Jeremy Allen White?
Mhm.
He's obviously bought himself like a motorcycle, so he had money to buy that. But they all still lived at home. Kevin got like a shitty little apartment. Like they made enough, I suppose, to get by. Maybe have a couple of nice things, but they were never balling.
No.
Like they made a living. They made a living
Yeah.
essentially. That's it.
Yeah, and like for the Von Erichs, a lot of their money came from the promotion.
Yeah, yeah.
and like the TV rights, but
Oh, how
then
much
you've
money
got
was Dad scraping off the top?
to yeah, but then you've got to invest all that money back in to like
Yeah,
bring in new talent and stuff. Like it's
for sure.
wrestling is a hard game, and like even today, like independent wrestlers,
Oh, it looks like a grind from everything I see you post about and all that. It just seems like a grind, eh? Same
yeah,
as anything. Same as if you're just a local band starting out. You gotta pay and be out of pocket for years, like going
yep,
around to pubs, touring country towns before you start getting paid to actually tour by a promoter. Like it's a grind, man. Everything like that is.
yeah,
All
yeah,
performing arts and whatnot. Like because wrestling
like
is what do you consider wrestling? Performing arts or sport? Like at a
yeah,
amateur level, it's performing
yeah,
arts, eh?
yeah. So yeah, like they might get like $50 like for a match, but they've also got to get themselves to the show
Like out of
and get
accommodation, get there, like out of pocket. They got to make
yeah,
merch. It's like out of pocket thousands or whatnot.
yeah, yeah. So it's like it's the merch where you got to make all your money back. Like you're not going to make your money on show appearances. The show appearances are just there to get you in front of people to get build your fan base to then buy the merch.
Yep. No, I need to come to one of these. Oh, I keep telling you, next time there's one in Wollongong or something, I want to come along and see what the goings on is. Give me
February
work in the
17th,
merch stand, bro. Give me in there
Feb-
in the trenches.
February 17th, Rock and
Oh
Roll
bullshit!
Wrestling
Where's it
at
at?
City Diggers.
17th. That just rings a bell of a date. I got something on.
It
Oh, I
is
got
a
nothing on. Oh, I got
Saturday.
nothing on. I got nothing on. Volkanovski
There you go.
fights on the Sunday. Wait, big weekend of biffs.
Yeah, there you
No, I'm not going to lock it in, but I got nothing on. Know that.
go.
Yeah, that could be a play. That could be fun.
Yeah, very good.
I want to buy
Alrighty.
like a wrestling shirt or someone who's wrestling.
Yeah, there's plenty there. They've all got merch.
Yeah, man, I want to go. Yeah, right.
Alrighty. So, in terms of a rating for the Iron Claw, as a non-wrestling fan, what would you rate the Iron Claw out of 5?
I've thought about like this one, and it's a very disrespectful rating system. So I'm not going to say. I'm just going to say it's a 4 out of 5. But
Jesus Christ.
like it's like from face value and someone who knew nothing about it, it's a very good film. And I like just disrespectful to give it less than a 4. And like Zac Efron's makeup and appearances, like just was, and the Ric Flair thing. Those two things I mentioned, they're the only two bones I got to pick with this, and they're
Mhm.
enough to make it me sit at a 4 and nothing over.
Yeah,
I'll be
fair.
shocked if you give this a 5. To be honest, go. What's your word?
I gave this a 5.
Oh, there's inaccuracies we spoke of. I
The
thought
inaccuracies I don't
maybe
mind
like a
because
4.5, like a 5, and there's still like the Ric Flair
yeah,
thing. You got a
yeah.
5?
The Ric Flair thing is annoying, but for me,
Like
it's
I just
such a
knew you were going
minor
to give this a
part of the
5.
movie that I didn't really care. Um, but I think for me, it's a 5 purely based on Zac Efron's performance and Jeremy Allen White's performance, and even Harris Dickinson. Like the 3 leads in
Yeah.
this are all phenomenal, and I hope that they continue down this path. Like, Jeremy Allen White, we already knew going into this is a fantastic actor.
So is
I
Zac
think
Efron.
this
Like he cemented
cements,
himself. Zac Efron is what cemented Zac Efron? Was it Ted Bundy? Is that when people woke up and like, oh, Zac Efron's legit? But I swear he's been legit for years. Hey, he's branched out. He's done some sick roles.
yeah.
There was another movie he
I
was
think
Jack.
this just took
It
him to a
was.
whole new level where it's like, oh
Was he
shit,
in
like,
Baywatch? Was it Baywatch? Maybe.
yeah.
But
But
yeah,
I
Zac
think it was,
Efron's legit. Cuz what are you talking
I think
about?
it's just this movie is like the most serious role and like
Yeah.
legitimate movie, like portrayal he's had. Like all of the others have kind of been like silly kiddie movies, whereas
Mm.
this one's like this is like a legitimate adults
Oh, and
like
bro, Zac Efron doing A24. That's huge.
this is like award worthy performances. Alrighty. Thank you everyone for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. You can follow me on social media at JamyUps Media and at Parrier Magazine. And you can follow Blake on Twitter at Captain Crumbs with a Z. The commentary booth is a fan-funded production of Jamie Ups Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Parrier Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/Jamie Ups Media. The following people supported at the publisher level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support.